All right, get ready to explore the dark and twisted world of John Webster's The Duchess of Malfi.
Ooh, the Duchess of Malfi.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
You sent over some really interesting excerpts focusing on those key scenes and characters, so
Oh,
we're going to
right.
really try to unpack why this play is still relevant centuries later.
It's amazing how it still has so much bite.
Right. Power struggles, forbidden desires, and, oh yeah, tons of revenge.
And the language. I mean, the way Webster uses language in this play is just wow.
I love that. So tell me, where does this whole twisted tale begin?
Well, it all starts in the heart of the Duchess's court.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not all, glittering surfaces
Right.
and courtly dances. There's a real sense of unease. Lots of secrets simmering beneath the smiles.
Yeah, and there's that scene early on when Antonio, who's just back from the French court, praises the French king for kicking out all the yes men.
Oh, yes.
And it's subtle, but it's kind of throwing shade right at the Italian court.
Totally. Like a little hint at the rot beneath the gilded facade.
Exactly. And then we meet those delightful brothers, the Cardinal and Ferdinand.
Oh, talk about a study in contrasts.
Right. The Cardinal, all piety and religious authority, you'd think he would be the voice of reason.
You would think.
But there's something about him that just screams like, puppet master!
Right. And his puppet, our friend Bosola, the cynic, the malcontent. I mean, this guy has seen some things.
Oh, yeah.
He even compares the court to a galley ship, remembering his own suffering.
You can practically hear those chains rattling. He's definitely grappling with some demons.
Absolutely. And that's what makes him so fascinating. He sees all the corruption, he rails against it,
Yeah.
but he's also drawn to it, like he's tempted by the power it offers.
And speaking of temptation, we can't forget Ferdinand, the Duchess's twin brother.
Oh, Ferdinand. One minute he's cracking jokes, and the next he's spewing threats.
Right. Especially when it comes to his sister's independence.
He is a master of veiled menace. He hides his need for control behind that charming facade.
But his language betrays him, especially when he's talking about widows.
Oh, totally. It's like he sees them as inherently deceptive, dangerous.
It's a threat.
Yes, he uses words like whores and warns his sister against remarriage.
Wow.
He even gives her a dagger, urging her to give up on chargeable revels. Basically anything that brings her pleasure.
Anything that suggests a life beyond his control.
Exactly. That's not just brotherly advice, that's straight up manipulation.
Using words as weapons.
Yes. And that's what makes Webster so brilliant. He understood the power of language. To conceal, to reveal, to persuade, to threaten.
His characters are constantly wielding words, like tools, masks, and sometimes even daggers.
Exactly.
So we've got this pressure cooker of a court simmering with ambition, intrigue, and then the Duchess does the unthinkable.
Oh, I know.
She secretly marries Antonio, her steward.
Talk about a power move.
Yeah.
She not only defies her brothers, but she also chooses a man beneath her station, purely for love.
It's so bold.
It's a declaration of her own agency in a world that just wants to control her.
And that moment when she puts her wedding ring on Antonio's finger to heal his bloodshot eye.
Oh, that's beautiful imagery.
It's such a powerful symbol of their union.
But also, knowing what's coming, it's also a bad omen.
It feels like doom.
Right. Their love is this fragile flame in a room full of gunpowder.
And you know things are going to explode.
Oh, they absolutely do. And guess who stumbles onto their secret?
Bosola.
Bosola. And the brothers are like, perfect. They appoint him provisor of the horse.
Right. Which sounds fancy, but really it just means...
Spy. He's their eyes and ears in the Duchess's household.
Exactly. And Bosola, trying to balance his own sense of morality
Right.
with his desire for advancement, gets pulled into their web of deceit.
Yeah, that scene where he delivers the poisoned apricots to the Duchess. So much tension.
It's almost unbearable.
He claims he doesn't know they're poisoned, but you can see the doubt.
If those apricots should be poisoned now, without my knowledge.
Right. He's trying to convince himself more than anyone.
It's like a conscience cracking under pressure.
Exactly. But it's not just guilt that's driving him.
What else?
Well, remember, when he finds that note, the one revealing the Duchess's marriage and her child,
Yeah.
he hits the jackpot, finally catches her in what he sees as a compromising position.
And it feeds his cynicism.
Right. Reinforces that warped worldview.
Mm.
He's blind to the love between the Duchess and Antonio.
He sees what he wants to see.
Exactly. To justify his actions. And maybe soothe his own resentment.
And from there, things just spiral out of control.
They do.
Bosola rats her out to those power-hungry brothers in Rome. You can practically hear the gears of vengeance grinding.
And the Cardinal. Oh, the Cardinal. He really shows his true colors then.
How so?
Well, he casually tosses aside his mistress, Julia.
Right.
He compares himself to a falconer. Like she's just a bird he trained for his own amusement.
Chilling. It's such a disregard for another human being.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how someone so outwardly pious can be so ruthless.
And that is exactly what Webster wants us to consider.
Yeah.
This play is a dissection of power. It exposes how power corrupts, even the most seemingly righteous.
And that corruption is so evident in the brothers' plan to punish the Duchess. I mean, they don't just want her dead, they want to break her first.
They want to break her spirit.
Mentally and emotionally torture her.
Psychological warfare. They imprison her, subject her to these horrible tortures.
They even stage a mock execution of her husband and children with wax figures. I mean, talk about cruel and unusual punishment.
It's a scene that stays with you.
Oh, it does.
The sheer emotional brutality. It's designed to strip her of all hope, make her question her sanity.
But here's the thing, the Duchess, she refuses to break, even facing this unimaginable horror.
She's amazing. Her famous line, "I am Duchess of Malfi still." It's like a defiant battle cry.
I love that line.
And there's that moment when she's surrounded by madmen brought in to torment her, and she says, "The heaven o'er my head seems made of molten brass, the earth of flaming sulfur, yet I am not mad."
Wow, strength in the face of adversity.
Right. It's a testament to her own mind, her own self-belief. She sees through their charade, recognizes the absurdity of it all, and she refuses to let it define her.
She understands that they can take everything from her, everything but her identity.
Precisely. And that inner strength is what makes her such a compelling and enduring character.
She is resilience.
Yes, but even the strongest spirits can be betrayed.
It's heartbreaking when even Bosola, who seems to have some compassion for her, ends up becoming her executioner.
Oh, Bosola. He's such a tragedy.
He is. Caught between his conscience and his ambition, he makes choices that ultimately lead to his own destruction.
That's true.
That scene where he strangles the Duchess, devastating, but even in death, she maintains her dignity.
She does. She asks her executioners to treat her body with care.
Such a stark contrast to the madness that consumes her brothers.
Speaking of which, their descent into madness is just as fascinating as the Duchess's resilience.
Oh, absolutely. Ferdinand just goes completely off the rails. Haunted by guilt, paranoia.
The play becomes this psychological thriller, exploring the corrosive nature of unchecked power.
Like that scene where Ferdinand thinks his shadow is stalking him.
Yeah.
And tries to strangle it.
Oh, yes. Like he's wrestling with his own demons.
A visual representation of his inner turmoil.
Exactly. He's a prisoner of his own guilt and paranoia.
And the cardinal, despite trying to stay in control, he falls victim to his own guilt and fear too.
You can see it. He tries to rationalize his actions, but it just highlights his hypocrisy.
His moral bankruptcy.
It's like by trying to destroy his sister, he destroyed himself.
A cautionary tale.
Yes, showing how the pursuit of power and revenge can lead to self-destruction.
But even with all this darkness, there's a glimmer of hope at the end.
Oh, tell me about it.
Antonio's young son survives.
Yes.
And Delio vows to help him reclaim his mother's dukedom.
Right.
So even in the face of tragedy, there's the possibility of justice, of renewal.
A tiny seed of hope planted in the ashes.
Exactly. So we've seen this whirlwind of betrayal, madness, loss. What's the takeaway? What's Webster trying to tell us?
I think he's forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths about human nature,
Okay.
about the allure of power, and the destructive potential of our darkest impulses.
He's making us think about the choices we make and the consequences.
Exactly. The Duchess of Malfi is not just a play, it's a mirror, reflecting our own capacity for good and evil.
And maybe encouraging us to choose wisely.
I hope so. It's amazing how Webster makes this 17th century world feel so relevant today.
Right.
Like those themes of power and ambition and the struggle for individual freedom, especially for women, I mean, they still resonate.
He's holding up this dark and twisted mirror
Yeah.
to our own society.
Wow.
And forcing us to confront those truths about human nature that we'd rather not think about.
Absolutely. And the way he does it,
Yeah.
the language is just masterful.
I know.
Like there's this atmosphere of dread that just permeates everything,
Yeah.
even when nothing violent is happening on stage.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's like this undercurrent of tension, like something terrible is always about to happen.
Right. And then there are those images so vivid and unsettling,
Yeah,
they stay with you.
they do.
Like, do you remember when Ferdinand, full of jealousy and suspicion, describes the Duchess as an irregular crab?
Oh, yeah.
He says she thinks that it goes right because it goes its own way.
Ugh, that image is so creepy.
I know.
He's saying that any woman who dares to be independent, to defy expectations, is somehow deviant.
Unnatural.
Yeah.
It's so messed up.
And it really highlights the societal pressure that she's up against.
Right.
She's not just fighting her brother, she's fighting against an entire system.
Trying to control her, limit her choices.
Exactly. It's interesting how Webster uses imagery of nature to represent the Duchess and her goodness, while their brothers are associated with, like, artifice and corruption.
That's a great point.
Right.
She's this life force.
Yeah.
Full of passion, vitality.
Yeah.
She even compares herself to a bird.
I remember that.
Longing to choose her mates and carol her sweet pleasures to the spring.
But her brothers are determined to cage her.
They want to snuff out that spark.
That life.
Yeah, and then there's Bosola, caught in the middle,
Yeah.
drawn to the Duchess.
But tempted by power.
Yes, exactly.
And he's always trying to justify his actions.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he says, "We value not desert nor Christian breath, when we know black deeds must be cured with death."
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's like a confession.
Right.
He's lost his way.
He's become as corrupt as the people he despises.
And that's the tragedy of Bosola.
And no, it's so sad.
He understands good and evil, but he can't escape his own ambition.
His resentment.
Exactly.
He becomes a pawn,
A pawn in their game.
sacrificing his integrity for this power that doesn't even really exist.
And what about Julia?
Oh, Julia.
The cardinal's mistress
Another victim.
of the power dynamic.
Used and discarded.
And her death is just so tragic.
Senseless, avoidable.
It's a reminder that innocent people can get caught in the crossfire.
That innocence is no shield against the forces of darkness that Webster unleashes in this play.
Wow.
But even with all that bleakness, there is still that little bit of hope at the end,
Yeah,
with the Duchess's son surviving.
right. And Dilio vows to help him.
It's a small victory.
But a significant one.
A tiny seed of hope planted in the ashes of tragedy.
I love that. And then there's that final scene.
Oh, I know.
It's so powerful.
Tell me about it.
Bosola dying says, "We are merely the stars' tennis balls, struck and banded which way please them."
Such a fatalistic statement.
I know. Does anyone really have free will?
Right. Are we all just playthings of fate? It's a question that's haunted people for centuries.
Yeah, think about the plague, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
1 minute you're healthy, the next, gone.
Just like that.
And no reason.
But even in that moment of despair, Bosola acts.
He does.
He reveals the truth about the Duchess's murder.
So her memory will live on.
And justice will prevail, even if it's too late for him.
It's like he's trying to reclaim his integrity.
To make amends for his choices.
And that act of redemption, however flawed, gives the play closure.
Absolutely, some kind of balance is restored.
Yeah, it's not a happy ending, but it's satisfying.
We see that actions have consequences,
That evil is punished.
and that even compromised souls can find redemption.
And Delio, after everything that's happened, says, "Integrity of life is fame's best friend, which nobly, beyond death, shall crown the end."
Chills every time.
I know, it's like a moral compass,
Pointing us toward virtue,
reminding us that a life lived with integrity is worth living.
even if it doesn't lead to fame and fortune.
Right.
That's a powerful message in a world obsessed with success and achievement.
It is.
It's easy to lose sight of what truly matters.
And the Duchess reminds us through her suffering that integrity, courage, and compassion really matter.
Yes, those are the qualities that define a life well lived.
And they endure even long after we're gone.
The Duchess of Malfi isn't just a play.
What is it?
It's a call to action.
Yeah.
A challenge to live with purpose.
To choose kindness over cruelty.
Yes. To fight for what we believe in even when it's hard.
So what stands out to you as the play's most enduring element?
It's the Duchess for me.
Yeah.
Even when they take everything from her, her title, her freedom, her life, she never loses her dignity.
This is amazing.
It makes you wonder what really matters when you're facing that kind of adversity.
Right.
Is it power? Is it status? Or is it something more like her sense of self?
Yeah, it's like she's showing them that they can control her body, but they can't touch her mind, her spirit.
Exactly. It's a powerful message about resilience.
It really is, and it's a message that speaks to everyone, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyone who's ever felt trapped, marginalized, powerless.
It reminds us that even when it feels like the world is trying to break us, we still have choices.
We can choose how we respond.
We can choose defiance.
They can choose integrity.
Hold on to who we are even when everything else is gone.
I love that, and that's what makes the Duchess of Malfi so powerful.
It really is.
It forces us to confront our own mortality.
Our own good and evil.
And our responsibility to make choices that, that align with our values.
Exactly.
So if the Duchess of Malfi could whisper one piece of wisdom to us today...
Oh, that's a great question.
What would it be?
I think it would be Delio's final words. Integrity of life is fame's best friend, which nobly, beyond death, shall crown the end.
That's interesting because on the surface, it seems like he's talking about fame.
Right.
But there's more to it, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. It's not about worldly fame. It's about being true to yourself.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it means going against the grain.
Yeah, it's about that inner compass.
Your moral code.
That can't be swayed by outside forces.
It's about recognizing that real worth comes from the choices we make.
Yeah, we impact the world.
Exactly, and that message feels, especially relevant today.
It does.
In a world obsessed with success and achievement.
Yeah, it's so easy to lose sight of what matters.
And the Duchess, through her suffering and her sacrifice, reminds us that it's integrity and courage and compassion that really matter.
Those are the things that define a life well lived.
And they have the power to last, even after we're gone.
They do.
Well, we've certainly journeyed through some dark and twisted places with the Duchess of Malfi.
We have.
But I hope we've come out of it with a greater appreciation for the power of the human spirit.
To endure, to resist, to find meaning in suffering.
We've only scratched the surface of this amazing play.
There's so much more to discover.
In Webster's language, his characters, his themes.
So much depth.
So if you're feeling inspired, I encourage you to find the full text and dive in.
It's a wild ride.
It is, but it's worth it.
Definitely.
And as you explore this world, I want you to ask yourself, how does the play make you think about the balance between individual freedom and societal expectations in our own time?
It's a question that still resonates centuries later.
It does. And until next time, keep diving deep, keep asking those tough questions, and keep searching for those truths that connect us all.
See you next time.